the United Nations expects to need a record amount of $22.5 billion in humanitarian assistance next year, as more than 90 million people are expected to be in need. Most of them live in the Middle East and Africa. The humanitarian appeal was launched on Friday, and the estimates are based on the worsening conditions in a number of conflict zones or crisis areas. The situation has worsened in countries like Burundi, the Central African Republic, Cameroon, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Libya, Sudan, and Somalia, according to the United Nations. As in previous years, the most affected countries remain South Sudan, Yemen, Syria, and Nigeria. Here is a summary of the Washington Post's coverage that helps to explain how the problem reached its current scale in those four nations. Yemen in a world of crises, Yemen still stands out, wrote Ishan Tharoor. It has raged since 2014, when rebels known as the Houthis seized the capital of Sana'a and sent the government of President Abed Rabbo Mansur Hadi into flight. In 2015, a Saudi-led coalition entered the fray on Hadi's behalf and embarked on a devastating blockade as well as a relentless campaign of airstrikes. While the Houthis have lost ground, they remain entrenched in parts of the country, including Sana'a. Amanda Erickson explained how the political conflict escalated into what is now being considered the world's worst humanitarian crisis. Nearly 80% of Yemen's population is now food insecure, millions are teetering on the edge of famine. The situation, described as critical for nearly 2 years, has grown even worse since early November, when Saudi Arabia enacted a near-complete blockade on its borders with Yemen, making it nearly impossible for anyone to import food, water, and medical supplies from Saudi Arabia. Syria government blockades of aid deliveries to besieged areas have similarly worsened the Syrian crisis, where they drew sharp condemnations early on. In 2014, the Post's Loveday Morris reported, "Residents of rebel-held Syrian neighborhoods under siege say the message from the government is clear: surrender or starve." Peace talks in Geneva, the first of the 3-year conflict, have thrown a spotlight on the plight of cut-off civilians in the central city of Homs, as participants focus on the issue of humanitarian access before turning to the tougher political questions. However, confidence is ebbing that relief will materialize. For many, needed aid deliveries did indeed never arrive. 1 month ago, the Post's Louisa Lovelock and Zakaria described Syrian civilians' ordeal as aid deliveries still remain insufficient, focusing on the besieged Damascus suburb of eastern Ghouta. Food supplies did not dry up overnight. Even after years of violence, families still managed to cope, spending savings on food sold at inflated prices and finding creative solutions when the fuel ran out. Slowly, after years of a government blockade, warlord profiteering and international paralysis over the appropriate humanitarian response, residents of this suburb once known as the breadbasket of Damascus have reached a breaking point. South Sudan.